morning, well, good afternoon and good morning to some of you. Today we're going to talk about how we transition to distance learning rather quickly. I'll give you some background on myself, my school, the Geo Foundation and my school, and then we'll talk about our transition. And I completed a SWOT analysis, and I examined our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and the threats that we would face with distance learning. My name is Katrina Golden. As I said, I am a graduate of Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in mass communications, and my master's is in public administration. I became a teacher because I worked in educational nonprofits, and I felt that I would better affect change by being in the classroom. So I did an alternative certification program here in Baton Rouge called Louisiana Resource Center for Educators, and I obtained my teacher certification through them. My school, Geo Prep Mid-City of Greater Baton Rouge, is a part of the Charter Network Geo Foundation. Our motto at our school is to catch up, keep up, and move up. Geo, as you see on the screen, the mission is to break the cycle of poverty by providing our students and families with access to quality educational options. We currently have 4 locations in Baton Rouge. We have our K-2 location and on Platte, our Sherwood location, which is 3 to 8, and our high school, New Generation, which is 9th and 10th, and my school, Great Mid-City, which is grades kindergarten through 8th. So the way that we did this, on March 13th, our governor announced that schools will be closing beginning on March 16th. And initially, it was supposed to only be until April 15th, but due to Corona, basically he ended our school year. So once he made that announcement, what we began doing, majority of the students at Mid-City and at Sherwood, at Mid-City grades 4 through 8, they were already using Google Classroom. However, our lower grade students, kindergarten through 2nd at Platte and kindergarten through 3rd, were not. The 3rd graders used it sparingly, but not well enough to, go home with it. So we set up those classrooms, and we gave the teachers and the teachers' assistants the login and passwords for those students, and they began contacting parents to get updated contact information, email addresses, tell parents how to log into the computers, Chromebooks, into their Google accounts. We also began setting up Zern, Study Island, Odyssey, and Edulastic. And by setting up or updating, I mean enrolling students, getting those usernames and passwords to them so they could get started when we began our first day of instruction. We also added parent emails to Google Classroom, and they were automatically sent reports weekly about their children's activities and their progress in the class. I also created a Google Classroom for our teachers that I uploaded the support documents for Zern, Study Island, Odyssey, Edulastic, Google Classroom, wherever they needed. I put it in one place so they could go back and forth without having to contact anybody else. The final thing is that we trained our teachers on how to use Google Classroom, Zern, Odyssey, Study Island, Edulastic, Zoom, Google Hangouts, and these were done virtually as well. We we would meet by grade level, and any questions, concerns, or help that teachers needed, they were able to ask questions during that time or in the online instructional resources page. Next slide, please. And then we started class on March 23rd. So we basically, in a week's time, moved everything from from paper and pencil to Google Classroom, Google Documents, Zern, all of that. All right, so what did we learn? We actually did this like in a week's time. So it's constantly evolving, and we're constantly training, updating, and helping teachers and students and parents. Next slide. So what did we learn? Our strengths. We had a quick transition to distance learning. Most online instructional resources such as Study Island, Google, Zoom, Zern, etc., they gave free access to schools and to teachers. So the fact that we had that access and that it was free was a strength for us because we were able to use different resources. Constant communication between stakeholders, the teachers, the students, the parents, the TAs, administrators. We were constantly in contact with our parents via text message, emails, call outs, class dojo, remind, group me. Like, it was a constant stream of communication. Also, a strength of ours was the willingness of parents, teachers, and students to be flexible and understanding. Everybody was new to distance learning. So, and even though we had a quick turnaround time, it's really kind of hard to train to show your parents and your students how to use a resource that they've never used before virtually. However, the teachers, everyone was understanding because we knew we were all in this together. The majority of our students in all grades were able to check out Chromebooks, to log on to Google Classroom. But those who did not want to use the Chromebooks or didn't have access, the teachers created printed packets that they were able to come and pick up from the school and to return to the school. GEO Foundation also purchased 3,000 Chromebooks to make our schools one-to-one, meaning every student in our buildings will have a Chromebook. We'll all be one-to-one. Next slide, please. Our weaknesses. On-the-go training for teachers, students, and parents. We didn't really have a plan in place for this. So the easiest thing to do was to say, okay, we're gonna have these different times for Zoom calls so we would be able to show parents, teachers, students how to use the resources. The newness of distance learning. It's not technically new, but is new to having a whole school that was once brick and mortar transition to distance learning. So there was a weakness because we were trying to figure out how, and we're also a TAP school. So we were trying to figure out how to make sure we're meeting the requirements of TAP, meeting our state requirements, and meeting the standards for our state. The barriers to accessing technology, that's a big one because we didn't know which students had internet. We didn't know who had Chromebooks at home. So that was the purpose for our teachers and TAs calling parents and asking those questions. Do you have access to internet? Do you need a Chromebook? Do you what else do you think you would need? What's your email address? I think this was that communication helped in terms of we would be able to see what our students needed. Our last weakness, stakeholder accountability, similar to what Narissa was discussing about attendance, who's logging in, who's not logging in, who's completing the work. That was kind of a hard transition to go from person to person to and then to virtually, and trying to figure out how to make sure that all our students were where they needed to be and going to class and completing assignments. Opportunities. due to this being so new, there are a lot of different things that we can do, and you also have a little you have leeway to figure out what works best for your school and your students. One of the things that we found, we had improved communication and relationships between our stakeholders. Because we were calling and texting and emailing, that made our communication better, and it made our parents and students feel, welcome, and their trepidation about the situation was being understood, because we basically were in this together. They didn't know, we didn't know, and so by this improved communication and relationships, this is gonna help us in the future as well. We also have an opportunity to choose the learning environment that best works for students, or a particular child. Some may prefer the brick and mortar, and we actually discussed this with we had a conversation with our chief academic officer last night, totally devoid from this, and that was one of our conversations. How do the parents want the students to come back to school? What are the teachers comfortable with? What is our organization comfortable with? So it might be brick and mortar for some, distance learning for some, hybrid of brick and mortar and distance learning. Those are the things that we have the opportunity to figure out and create a curriculum and programming to work in all those environments. We also have the opportunity to train our teachers on best practices and using technology in the classroom and distance learning. What I think the opportunity here is that our teachers become more technology savvy, and they are able to give lessons to the students that are still rigorous and high quality, even though they may be virtually or in the classroom. We also can train our parents on using online instructional resources and other technology. And that could be maybe training parents on using Microsoft Office, getting certified in Microsoft Office, maybe offering classes, computer training classes. That's a lot of opportunity there to also improve school parent communication. We also have the opportunity of an increased ability to make data-driven decisions on what works in the areas of curriculum and instruction, meaning that, maybe for this child, they learn better virtually, or maybe this child, or for this subject area, this may be better done in the school as opposed to being virtually. Threats. The biggest threat is the unknown. We have no idea what's going to happen. We don't know if virtual learning will be the new normal. We don't know if we're going back to schools. Everything is so up in the air right now, and it's such a unique and new situation in our areas that it's kind of hard to make a plan when you don't know what the future is going to hold. Another threat is instructional loss for students. I think that depending on their home situation, most people have to work. We have to, students may miss something and not know what to do, or just kind of blow it off, as opposed to us being when we're face to face and we can see that. Another threat is stakeholder accountability, and that goes back to what I was saying about the weaknesses about attendance and who's doing what and what should I be doing during this time, or how are we going to do that? Is it okay for me to answer questions from students at midnight, because you get a lot of that, and things of that nature. Next slide, please. I think that's the last one. I'll try. If you have questions, you can leave them. I can answer them in the chat. And I also put my email address in the chat for anyone who wants more information.